Hi, I'm James, and this is the third video in a series of 3 videos on building VR games in Unity. In this video, Deed is going to show me how to debug a game in Unity, and he's also going to show me some resources for people who want to learn how to build games in Unity.
And the cool thing that I really like about Unity is that, especially like for beginners and for myself when I was starting out in Unity, it's like you can sort of interact with your code in a more simple way or less intimidating way for people who like open this up and they're like, what the hell is going on? This is confusing. Um, these public floats, they can be changed. That's a cool thing about them being like public is like you can just go in here and
cool.
change the speed. You can also change rotation speed. You can do the follow player distance. But we have the script, and if we launch it, it'll probably walk around, but it's going to be really confused.
Let's see.
And okay, it's not walking around right now, so something's wrong. And I think the reason for this is because we didn't actually create a box collider. And what I said it was earlier is this box. And when you hit is trigger, it doesn't act like an actual collider anymore. It's simply like an area that you can like control and determine how things interact in this environment. So for example, if I wanted to make it's like invisible too, so you don't even the player doesn't see this. So it's like if the controllers get inside this box collider, then something happens. And if we just make this like, let's see, copy. Let me try and zoom in. It's kind of like hard to see what's going on in here. What's funny is I can zoom in on here, but I can't zoom in on like. I wish I could zoom in more. Yeah, I don't know why, but it's not gonna let me. Anyway, so we have a box collider. We're actually going to separate it from the character, and we're going to create a empty game object, which will be our box collider. And the reason why is because like if the box collider was if it was attached to the character, as it moves, the box collider would move, which we don't want, and that would be really bad.
So the box collider is like the bounds of the game?
Exactly. It's essentially the bounds of the game. And like where the object or the character or NPC will go. And we'll make it pretty big. We'll give it a lot of room to kind of walk around and see what happens. But before then, we're going to actually ask GPT. I totally forgot to do this, but we're going to ask it to recognize that the box collider is like tagged. Similar to earlier how I was talking about how like the XR origin, it's like untagged. And the cool thing about tagging is you can really get more advanced when you tag objects. So we're going to tag it with player so that this object now knows like, okay, this is the player, because before it was like, this is just a camera and a controller. And it doesn't have to be player. You can make your own, which is what we're going to do. What should we name the like sort of the bounds of the game, like the walls, the invisible walls?
It's the Lemming World.
Okay, Lemming World. Did you say wall or world?
World.
Okay, world. So that's the Lemming World. That's tag number 22. And if we go into GPT, you say box collider, because we didn't know what it was tagged with before. It's tagged with Lemming World. And please rewrite the script to have this new knowledge. Thank you. So we'll let it rewrite that, and in the meantime, we'll make sure that this box collider is good to go. We tagged the XR origin with player, so I wonder. Let's just test it out right now and see what happens. For all we know, maybe. Okay. Yep. It's going a bit wild right now.
Whoa.
So it's like super confused because there's like no box collider, and object. Let's just check out these errors. So it's like object reference not set to an instance of an object. Forest Wanderer update. So it's an issue with like we haven't really finished everything. Like what we said in the code, to my knowledge at least, is that some of the stuff doesn't exist yet. And with this updated script, we will hop back into Unity. Let's clear the console. And if you look at the box collider, we'll tag it with Lemming World. So now it's like, oh, okay, this makes sense. And it should, in theory, work. There may be a few bugs that I missed or things that I'm forgetting. Like I said, I'm kind of new to Unity myself. Okay, so it's still bugging out and going crazy. It's like, what? That's absolutely absurd. And I think one way to fix this is either console logging or see, follow distance. Let's actually check this out. If other, did I spell the tag right? Because sometimes it can be that too. I love debugging. It's great.
Yeah, now is when the fun starts.
Yeah, now this is when the most exciting part happens, you know. Lemming World. Yeah, okay, that's weird. I don't know why. Yeah, debugging is honestly the best way to do this. What was your question?
No, just an idea. Like, so it looks like it's kind of spinning endlessly. Maybe that so it feels like it's already hit the boundary and trying to turn around. Maybe.
That's a
right?
great point. Yeah, that totally could be the case. You know, one thing I think that may be worth it to try is adding a box collider on the model itself where the script is.
Okay.
Actually, I think I think I have an idea of what might actually be the issue. One moment. So the funny thing in Unity is that objects act differently when you import them like from Blender sometimes. And now you see it's like spinning in a different direction now, right? It's like, whoa. It's kind of like mysterious. And the reason why is because we have the object and then we have like sort of the group of the object. It's like kind of a weird thing that happens, but rotation, speed. Let's see. Okay. But I think you're totally right. I think it's like it's okay, that's not the issue. But if we delete the box collider, delete the script on the group, it's definitely already hitting the boundary. It's like just kind of playing around with it. That's the fun thing with Unity is like sometimes it, yeah, it's still bugging out.
Maybe, yeah, maybe if we look at the code.
Yeah.
We can
Let's look at everything going on in here.
What's happening. So, move forward, follow player, and then
Quater neon.
It looks like it's
other compare. So it's definitely, it's like, I almost want to say it's like trying to do two things at once. That could be the issue. Where it's like trying to walk around, but it's also following the player. So something we'll just do to fix this is like, I don't want it to follow player anymore. Please. Okay, this is a temporary fix. And most likely it'll fix it. And yeah, I guess like what do you think of Unity so far? Like what are questions you have? Like what's the most confusing part about what you're looking at right now?
Okay, so I would probably say the confusing part is what's going on the left side. Because there's like this hierarchy and then there's a lot of objects going on in there. And I'm kind of afraid that I would drop something accidentally in a place where it's not supposed to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally get that.
Box colliders, lemmings. It looks simpler now.
I realized there was a few things in there that were from like a previous project.
Oh,
so it looks a little more simple now, but
still.
Yeah, it's intimidating, especially like if I were to open up like a different scene, like it can get to like hundreds of things in here.
Yeah.
And it just gets absurd. So let's see. I think it just removed follow player, and let's just find out. Kind of like private void move forward. Okay, cool. Yep, follow player's gone. I think they also simplified Lemming World a little bit, and we'll hop back into Unity.
Cool.
Make sure you save the script. That's very important. And speed, rotation speed. Let's find out. It's probably not going to work because there's a few things going on. Oh, it just like totally left the world. What's going on?
Maybe it's going kind
my
of fast.
theory is the z-axis is just climbing. So I think what that is it is not interacting with our plane correctly. Here, let's watch real closely. Like, where is it actually going? Okay, hang on. Let me restart that. Because the game, like, screen opens up. Okay, so it's just sliding this way.
Oh, cool.
So it just goes infinitely that way for right now.
That's good. That's
a sign of something. That's great.
We could just make it go a bit slower, and then we can debug from there.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So we'll do like -10. Let's see. -10. Does that have any effect on the speed? Maybe, maybe not. Oh, nope. It's just 8. It just chooses a random. I forget we did that. We decided to do random. That's
cool.
Lovely. So it's going on the z-axis. I think the reason why is maybe it's usually always have like a problem with the box collider. So we're actually gonna, with the box collider that's on this, let's just see what happens when I make it a bit bigger. And it should, okay, yeah, no, that's not the issue. Okay. Lemming World is connected to this. In the code, if other, compare Lemming World. What's interesting is I think that this is the lovely thing about using GPT is that it's generating a new random direction when hitting the edge of the collider. So it is essentially just going in one single direction. And it's not actually like following the player.
Yeah.
Which is lovely. And exactly the reason why I want to try and get more understanding of C# so I can easily debug that. But yeah, like I think the main thing right now is like move direction is the only thing that's going on, and it's just moving in one direction, and that's like it. For some reason, I think GPT thought that it lost the player tag. So like I wonder what would happen if I just like copy this, go down here, and I'll do change it to like player.
So what this part is supposed to do is it's supposed to notice when it's hitting the edge and then make it turn, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we removed follow the player, so I think like it's got to be something with the box collider potentially.
Right.
Box collider is here.
This one is called Lemming World.
Oh my gosh, the is trigger. That's great. So I think the reason why is because is trigger was disabled, so it did not know what to do. But who knows? It probably may work. Oh nope, it's still just floating away. Does it fall off the map at least? Oh no, it doesn't. Okay, let's add a rigid body. Let's just kind of experiment on that end. Double check the code. I think we can have something working soon.
Sure.
If I add a rigid, okay, yep. Now it's just like it's going in one direction. That's for sure. So if we were like, let's just talk to Unity like, yo, this is sending the character in one direction, and it doesn't bounce around or take into effect the box collider tag with Lemming World. Can you please make sure it is affected by that? And not going in one random direction. So just like kind of being direct and just like explaining literally what's going on. But you'd be surprised, like Unity and the documentation with like C# and just how the program works. kind of like is there's like almost too much documentation online about it, which
Yeah.
is funny because like I've gone like the alternate route where I don't want to read the exact documentation and I'm just jumping straight into it. Yeah, I needs new direction. Okay, so it's creating this new thing.
Yeah, and when is that update function called?
Hmm.
Maybe that's called regularly. And then
Yeah.
maybe at the bottom there's a trigger. There's something that sets the on trigger
Yeah.
exit. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I see. On trigger exit is I've seen it a few times. For some reason, I don't exactly remember what it means,
Oh, that looks pretty
but
well,
what?
as someone who's never used Unity before, I like what it's saying.
Yeah,
Maybe
I know, right?
it's
It's really nice.
um
I think it's deciding to just go in a random direction. Let's find out. Oh,
cool.
here we go. It actually bounced off. Oh, and now it's like it just killed itself. It just died.
What? I
um,
think you know what, dear, I think you've exactly recreated how Lemmings works. Because
exactly. Yeah.
normally what happens is you have a bunch of lemmings, they'll bounce off of a few things, and you'll think they're safe, and then suddenly they all jump off of a cliff.
Yeah. I think like it was just too easy to create something like this, and then yeah, one of them just gets sent flying and just dies. Some of the others also don't make it. And yeah, like that. I know obviously it kind of dragged out, but in theory it kind of works.
This is fantastic. I would love to keep working on this sometime, but thank you very much for the
Yes.
intro.
Sorry for the very long demo.
I learned so much today, and I actually feel like now I could start working on a Unity game.
You totally should. And the cool thing too is like the like Apple Vision SDK is widely available. I've seen people build Vision Pro apps in Unity. It's pretty cool to see like how you can go from creating like a 2D platformer game to creating like a really cool 3D experience in just like a really short amount of time.
The background looks quite good. What would be the difference between something like this and making the most beautiful game you could possibly make, as far as shading and rendering?
The big difference is that I would want the game. I really want to make something unique. One thing that I think was unique about the game that me and my friend built was that like the story was just incredibly unhinged. Half of it made like no sense. And with like future games, like a beautiful game I consider is games that like really have a good story or look unique. So there's this game called Lies Beneath. Beneath. It's incredibly inspiring because of the style. It's like super scary, but it's like the toon shading is just beautiful, and this like isn't something you can easily just watch a YouTube tutorial on. So it's like really spinning. Like you can tell these people spent like weeks working on just a really unique shader, probably even like months. I really love that aspect, like the shading, the textures. And the second thing is this game called Sushi Ben, which is a sort of like manga-esque like VR game. And the cool thing about this game is the art style is great, but I also really like how they have like a unique story and how the characters sort of like interact with each other. So similar to the last game, it's like really cool like toon shading, really cool style. Everything feels very unique. Like I haven't seen a single game that looks like this. So I think a beautiful game is something that like it's almost promising like an adventure, like a one-way ticket on a train that you've never been on is the way I look at it for a beautiful game. And the main difference with this is obviously it's like this reminds me of like a PS4 game that I would find for $5 that underperformed and the guy just needs to make some money.
Yeah. What are some more resources that someone can go to when they're first learning how to make VR games?
Ooh, I would say some really good resources, especially when creating like neat environments. HDRIs are basically a way to it's literally your world. If you've ever watched a YouTube VR video, what you see is basically an HDRI, but it's like moving and it's not a still image. There's this website called HDRI Haven, and it is just a list. It's awesome and it's totally free. A list of HDRIs people have created, and how you create an HDRI is you get like a 360 camera, or you take multiple, like it's sort of like Google Maps almost. So like let's say your game was out in the middle of a field, you can just go and download this, and you just saved yourself the trouble from having to go outside and actually like take photos of the sky, or even designing your own sky, and it looks like really realistic. But other like good resources, I think I mentioned earlier, but like when you're just getting started, like you may not have the patience to really learn Blender, which is literally an entirely different program on its own than Unity, and I would argue even more confusing than Unity. And this website, Models Resource, has basically 1,000, maybe 3,000 different types of like 3D models, probably way more than that, from games that have been around for a long time, and you can practically find anything. So it's a good way to sort of like have your game look good, and you feel like a little bit of motivation, and like build fast. There's also a similar website called, it's literally the same website almost, but it's a little different, and it's called the Textures Resource. This one's called the Models Resource. And in here, it's not 3D models, but rather it's actually textures. So for example, this game, Minecraft Earth, if you wanted to download a cow texture, there you go. It's basically thousands of PNGs of different types of textures. And you could make a square and then drag this on it, and then it would look like a chest. Or let's say you wanted to make like a sort of a woodsy dirt environment. Here you go. Here's a texture. If you're really like, especially those who have never opened Photoshop in their life, like it's a good way to kind of get like some motivation going.
Cool. And how about tutorials?
Yeah, tutorials are a great question. Tutorials, I've used them a fair bit, but not as much as like I would say as like GPT or sort of looking at like some other Unity projects and stuff. There's this guy called Valum, and the reason it's funny, I have a Chrome extension that blocks thumbnails so I don't get distracted. You need it, man. It's great. It's called Hide Your Thumbnails. We're talking about other resources. If you actually want to build a VR game and you don't want to you get distracted on YouTube, hide YouTube thumbnails. So I always check in on like a lot of his videos because he's always talking about like new XR kits and stuff. Valum, great guy. His tutorials are very like simple, but they're also like complex at the same time. I think if I scroll like all the way down here, you can see a year ago, I got inspired. I don't know why, but I watched this video sometime a year ago, and I was like, I want to make something like that. But still, during that time, I was not like I never actually made it. Meta Avatar. I honestly, actually, I think I watched this like a couple months ago, not a year ago. And then there's this called Blue Whale Studios. Oh, Black Whale Studio. Here we go. These are people that I think it's just this guy doing it, but I recently watched a video actually on the advanced hand tracking and lightning fast interaction setup. That's a mouthful. Yeah. Wow. And I watched a little bit of this video too. Really cool content. I think that his videos, I wouldn't say are exciting as exciting as Valum's, but he gets straight to the point, and like he has a lot of really good like information, and those are like, in my opinion, over the last few years that I've actually watched tutorials, these are really the two channels that I would only like recommend. Like
Awesome.
Valum and this dude.
Awesome. That's really helpful. I hope this will be helpful for anyone new that just wants to get started. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thanks a lot for taking the time.
Of course. I hope that like I don't know, my story was a little different than other people's, and it'll inspire some teenager or someone just to actually download Unity and like stick with it, because it can be a really like fun process. Just don't get stuck in the tutorial loop, and try and like just build something fast so you can at least get a sense of what it's like to actually build.
Yeah, and build with other people too.
Yep, that's even better one, honestly. Build with other people. Join communities. If you're a teenager, join Hack Club. Highly recommend.